What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to Your Ex-Drinking Buddy. My name is Brennan Tassif. I'll be your host. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com/merch-store. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. We'll put the shorts up there, the full video, the whole thing. Thank you so much for listening. I love it. I hope you love it. Subscribe on Patreon, too. We do bonus episodes. I do Tales from the Restaurant, where I talk about celebrities I've waited on and whether they're assholes or not, which is super fun. Also, we do a pre-show banter for my other show, Cheers from the Press Box with Joe Dorville. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on over there, too. Make sure you just subscribe everywhere, just all over the place. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not leaving the mean comments, thank you for that. Maybe leave a couple nice ones.
Grab me your beer and grab me a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is Your Ex-Drinking Buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do, hang out with somebody and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I'll be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from San Diego? Francisco, California. Kelly Kaufman.
Oh.
I panicked. I said San, and then I was like, wait.
Oh, it's okay.
San Francisco.
Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah, hi.
Before we get too far into anything, plug everything up front. Social media, any dates you have coming up. This will come out in a week.
Yes. Okay. Oh, in a week. Okay,
Yes.
that's good to know. So you can follow me on Instagram and TikTok, Kelly Kaufman _. And then for shows, I was going to say all my New York ones, but this is coming out in a week. So when I come back to the Bay Area, I have a really exciting show at Prune Yard Cinemas in Campbell, California. It's in a movie theater.
It is?
Yeah, it's in a movie theater.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, it's a really big show out in the Bay, and it's run by Jason Toops, who is awesome and runs.
Shout out Jason Toops.
Yeah, he runs really, really great shows. So, and then if you're like a trivia person, I also am like the resident weekly host at O'Reilly's Bar in Haight Ashbury for trivia.
Okay.
So that's fun. You get
Do
to
you
see
like
me
doing
ref.
the trivia?
I do. I don't come up with the questions. I would
Okay.
never do it
Yeah.
if that was the case. But the company, like, they make these really cool slides and visual graphics and music every week, and it's like a set of new questions every
Okay.
week. So I just get to show up and read
Master
them
of
off.
ceremonies kind of a thing.
Yeah. So it's a nice gig.
It is fun because I'm annoying. I'm that kind of annoying person where like someone will be like, "Hey, what's the?" And I'm always like a know-it-all about stuff.
You're a trivia person?
So everyone's like, "You'd be great at trivia." The problem is I'm like really competitive. So if I like we went to a Star Wars trivia because I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I missed like some of the most mundane questions, and I was like, I can't do this. I was like, this is bullshit.
We had
Just
a
mad at
couple.
myself.
Yeah, we had a couple players be like that recently where they like left halfway through the game. They're like, these questions suck.
Oh,
Like,
really?
Yeah. They were like, oh, we're losing. We're sore losers. This sucks. So I was like, okay.
Yeah,
right.
the Star Wars one got me though because it was like questions I should know the answers to as a fan, and I just missed it. And I was like, I'm there with my girlfriend and her brother who watch it but don't know it like I do, and they were like, "You're supposed to be the guy." And then there's a table across from us. All three of them are like huge Star Wars nerds, and they were just crushing. And I was that sore loser. I was like, "This is fucking stupid. This whole game is stupid."
That is so funny.
It was very embarrassing in the moment, especially because there's like 5 teams, and it's like, come on, man, we're just having fun. But I wanted to get you on because you're visiting in town. You're in New York for a little while. Originally, you are from New York, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so A couple of things. The thing I ask all my guests, especially because I have comedians and musicians and actors and stuff on, and that is a very niche thing to like pursue as your lifelong goal.
Yeah.
So how did you even discover stand-up? How did you like find stand-up comedy?
Yeah, it's like a really like weird story.
Beautiful. That's what we love here. Tell the people.
It's really weird. So, I was super depressed and just dealing with a lot of stuff, and I was scared of therapists at the time, like because I had one bad one, and I was like, they're all bad.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I need to get like some Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins kind of life coach person, and they're gonna change my brain. You know, they're gonna heal me. They're gonna do it. They're gonna heal me. And so I found somebody. And I'm telling her all these really dark, like depressing things. And she just couldn't stop laughing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she was like, you know, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to laugh at you. But the way you talk about things and like your words, like how you say things, like you're so funny. Like you should really do stand up. And like she ended up being awful and like ruined my life. But for some reason that stuck with me, you know?
The stand-up aspect of it?
Yeah, and it stuck with me. And then I saw this indie film called Obvious Child about a stand-up comedian with Jenny Slate. I don't know if you've
I haven't heard of it. Yeah, I got it.
And it was like a, you know, Jewish brunette girl. And I was like, I'm a Jewish brunette girl.
Yeah.
Maybe I could do that, you know? And then it kind of went from there. I'm a Puerto Rican Jew. I'm a Puerto Rican Jew.
You and Derek Drescher, two Puerto Rican Jews I've had on this podcast.
Nice.
He's a New York comic. Yeah, it's so funny because it's a very similar thing where he's Puerto Rican, but then you also remember like, oh yeah, Yom Kippur's coming up, man.
Yeah. I'm such a bad Jew. It's crazy. I don't know any of this stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, I do,
Yeah.
but I forget.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
It is interesting when I go to, because my girlfriend's Jewish, so when I go for high holidays, because the Torah is the Old Testament, and I grew up in a pretty religious, like my grandmother's Orthodox, so it's interesting because they'll like read the stuff, and I'm like, oh, I know Exodus, I know, you know what I mean, Genesis, and they're like, oh, you know that, and I'm like, yeah, it's the same part of the same book. Like, yeah I got it. Yeah. We're good. I wanted to ask you, when was the first time you tried stand-up? Other than the life coach thing.
It was in the Bay, and like the life coach was my first stand-up. That's so funny. That was my first stand-up routine ever.
Doing a tight five for the life coach.
Yeah, and so it was out in the Bay. When I first moved to the Bay, I moved there for tech.
Okay.
And I was a software engineer, like for a dating app. That was like a whole thing. And so I was living in Mountain View, like Silicon Valley, which is like awful. That it's terrible for a young person.
Is it nice or is it?
It's like.
I've never been, so I have no idea.
It's like this weird, like suburban tech, like contrived, like town.
Okay.
Like
a Sim City, like it was built in a lab.
Yeah, built in a lab. That's so well put. Like where there's like a P.F. Chang's on the corner, and then like perfect box cut house, and you know, lots of families, and then me, you know. And
Kelly's here.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell am I doing? So sorry. There was in Mountain View like really no comedy, but there was this coffee house called Red Rock Coffee, I believe.
Okay.
And they had like one of those mix mics where it was like anyone. And so I went there, and the host, he was like this hipster dude. He interrupted me like midway to tell me not to curse. He was like, no, don't curse. Don't curse.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to go to San Francisco. So then the next day I went to a mic in San Francisco.
How far is that drive?
From Mountain View is like an hour.
Okay. So it's not a small task to be like, hey, I'm going to go to the big city, like the bigger part of the city.
Yeah. I was like, I feel like this wouldn't happen in a city, you know?
Yeah.
I was like, this is so crazy. I cannot believe that just happened to me.
So you're just like, you're doing your 5 minutes or 10. How much time did they give you? 5?
Yeah, at
Okay.
Mike's it's pretty much like I feel like 3 to 5.
See, and I didn't know because it's a
Yeah.
mixed mic. I don't know how because I've only ever done a comedy mic. So you go there, you sign up, here we go. I'm going to try it. And then literally like a minute 30 in, the guy stops you and says, no cursing.
Yeah,
And that didn't, because if someone did
That
that to me,
deterred
I'd be
me.
like, oh, I'm gonna die now. Like, this sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I was like mad.
Yeah. But then the next day, you're like, fuck this. I'm going to San Francisco to try.
Yeah, maybe not exactly the next day, but it was like a few days later
Yeah.
where I was like, I need to find, because I was literally the only mic in Mountain View. I mean, there's really not a comedy scene
Yeah.
in Silicon Valley. You know, there is this really
don't
cool,
say.
Yeah, there is a cool comedy club out there in Sunnyvale, though, actually. So they're the exception. They're called Rooster Tea Feathers.
Okay.
And
I've heard of Rooster Teeth Feathers.
yeah, so they're awesome, and I've performed there, and so they're a little exception.
Yeah. You get that from
yeah.
time to time, like you'll look at certain areas and you're like, I don't think this is like a comedy area, but then they'll have like a club where you're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is like, I discovered that when we did a one-nighter at Charlotte. And I've been in comedy for a while, but it's like no one ever talks about like the Charlotte scene. But then we
Yeah.
went to do the Comedy Zone there and it was awesome. And I was like, oh, this is really cool how they have this like one amazing club for this because it's a
Wow.
major city. So it is a very similar thing. Some of these towns you go to and you're like, there's no comedy here. And then you go to the
Yeah.
club and you're like, this is actually pretty fucking cool. This is pretty
Yeah.
good. So you go to San Francisco and how did that mic go?
It was fun. I mean, you know, no one laughed,
Yeah.
and you know, I didn't know anybody, so that was scary. But then I just kept going, and the people out there are so amazing, and I love the scene out there. They're like the nicest, coolest people I've ever met, and I just like feel at home with them. So that, I think, you know, having a nice scene, because stand up is so vulnerable and scary.
Yes.
You know, having a nice scene where people are generally warm and supportive is like huge.
Yeah, it
you
makes a
know?
big difference because I noticed even in New York, when I go to mics where I know people, I'm so much more comfortable because we're
Yeah.
all friends. We're all doing the same thing. Like we're all trying to achieve the same goal. But then when I go to mics, sometimes it'll be like a random day where work calls and they're like, hey, you don't have to come in tonight. And I was like, well, I don't want to waste the night off. So I'll go try to do a show somewhere. Or if I can't get on a show, it's like, then I'll go to a mic, a random mic I've never been. And sometimes you get there and that you don't, like, I've been in New York for 4 years and I'll show up and I'm like, I don't know anybody in this room. And it can be very daunting. Even
Yeah.
though, like, I live in New York now. I know a lot of big comedians in New York. Like, I would consider myself somewhat established. I can still
Yeah.
walk into an open mic full of people who just got here and be like, I don't want to do this. So it's good that you walked in and you push through all of that, the fear and the uncertainty and everything. And you're like, no, this is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. And then everyone was super cool.
Yeah, I mean, I still deal with that fear every day, but it's comforting to hear someone that's been doing it longer still deals with that.
Oh yeah. And it's interesting because I'm an extroverted introvert. Like I would rather be by myself. So there's plenty of times I've shown up to mics or not shows because you get booked on those. And so you obviously know someone who's communicated with you. So you feel like, in my case, I feel like I'm supposed to be there. But with mics, I've gone to mics before and stood outside, not seen anybody I know go in, pace back and forth, and then leave. And I've been doing mics since 2009. Like I took a lot of time off, but like I've been doing that process for a
Yeah.
long time. So yeah, I'm still very much like, I don't want to be here. I don't know anybody. I'm uncomfortable. I'm going home.
Yeah.
It's
Okay,
like,
that makes
what?
me feel
Yeah.
good. Yeah. I mean, not like feel good like I'm not alone.
Yeah,
kind
of course.
thing.
No,
Yeah.
we're a bunch of broken toys.
Yeah, I
Comics.
love that. Yeah.
That's
Broken toys. I love that.
so you get into it, you start doing the mics. And are you driving every day to the hour to San Francisco to do the mics?
Oh, I couldn't do every day. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's-
was way too hard. Yeah, I would say like the first like 9-ish months into, I'm like a year and a half in now. So first like 9-ish months, like I was really only going 1 to 2 times a week. So
Okay.
I feel like I'm a lot newer than maybe someone that's doing it the same amount of time, but, you know, going to more, you know, just because I didn't get to do it as much. But eventually I moved to San Francisco and now I live there and I love it. And it's like my favorite city. But I'm like loving New York again, too.
Yeah.
So.
It's interesting whenever I leave New York, like to go do show. Like if I leave for more than 3 days, when I come back, I'm always like, greatest city. This is awesome. I love this city. And then, you know, you'll see someone jerking off on the subway and you go, okay, maybe I romanticize it a little in my head, but it is. And to your point, there's people I know who start in New York, which I think is bonkers because it's like, why would you start like from zero? Why would you start here? Yeah. But they'll be 6 months in, but because of the way the city is designed when it comes to stand up, they're doing, you know, 3 or 4 mics a day, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. And it's just all this stage time is available. So yeah, I mean, I guess someone could, if they just started here, could get out in front of it, but also mics sometimes can't be conducive to your growth because you end up like, if you do a bit, I say this all the time, like I have bits that I want to work on, but I go to a lot of the same mics. So by the third time I'm doing the bit, everyone's heard it. So nobody's laughing. And then I'm like, wait, is this bit not any good? And it's like, no, they've just heard it a bunch. So I also say it can be detrimental. But how long was it before you started doing shows and like getting booked and all that kind of stuff? Yeah,
that's the other thing that I like about starting in a smaller scene. I feel like it's way easier to get on shows. Like I would say like 3-4 months in, I was getting on shows. Okay. Which I feel is a huge advantage. You know, I feel like if I were to start out here, that wouldn't have happened. No, you know, so I have
a lot of friends that produce shows, and I still have to be like, "Hey, can I get on the show, please?"
I get it. Yeah, because there's just so many more comics out here, and people fending for spots, and just like you're competing with like a lot of the major comedy clubs in the world, you know.
And it will be bonkers too, because you'll have like a buddy will start a show, a friend of yours will start a show, but because like getting paid to do comedy is at a premium. They'll like book like legit touring comics. And it's like, well, I'm not going to get on over these people, but everyone wants stage time. You know, if you can get stage time for 10 minutes and make an extra $50, even like huge comics are doing that. Cause they're like, well, I'm in the city.
It's like their open mic.
Yeah, exactly. Where they can work on new stuff. And it's insane. Cause I'm sure it's like this, cause San Francisco is not a small market. Like it's a pretty big, I know a couple people, if I'm not mistaken, Kelsey Cook started there. My buddy Dan Vente's from that area. So it's like I know a lot of comics come out of that area. So I'm sure it in a microcosm, it's still the same kind of thing. But to your point, it's not as big. So you can just be like, hey, what's up? Can I get on the show? Yeah, come on.
Yeah, it's definitely a thriving scene out there, but it's not oversaturated the way like New York, Austin, or
Austin is now everyone I meet is like, we're moving to Austin. I'm like, all right, have fun. I'm gonna stay here.
I feel like Austin is the next like oversaturated hub, and then LA. I feel like LA is even worse than New York to start.
LA is interesting too, because I have friends that are out there, because all of us are from Florida, and so we all made the decision either New York or LA, and so most everybody went to LA. A couple of us came to New York. But it is interesting because when I go out to LA, there are so many people at open mics and stuff that are like, oh, well, I'm also an actor. I'm also a musician. I'm also a producer. I'm also a writer. I just do stand up too. And it's like, it seems like too many irons in the fire to focus on one thing. And then in New York, it's completely the opposite. It's like a lot of people are in my situation where it's like, no, I wait tables and then I do stand up. Like that's it. I do comedy.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I feel like in LA, it's like a lot of people doing stand up because their agent told them to do it. But it's such
Take that,
hard,
LA.
Yeah. It's such a hard art form that you like can't get better at it or like really have a career in it if you're not like it's not taking up the majority of your time, you know?
Yeah, I've done it before where, and I'm sure even a year and a half in, you might have come across this where I'll be like, oh, I know my set, like I'm good, like overconfident, like a little cocky. and I'll get on stage and I'll be doing okay. And then I'm like, well, let me try this new thing I'm working on. But I didn't put any effort into it. Like I'm just on a whim, like, let me riff on this thing I've been thinking about. And then it bombs and it's like, oh yeah, this is hard. Like this is real work. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, you can't get, because I feel like we get so in the mindset of like, especially once we have like a tight 5 or a tight 10 where we're like, we know it backwards and forwards. We kind of get bored with it sometimes. So we're like, oh, we'll throw in some other stuff. But if you're not working on, to your point, if you're not working on that other stuff, it's like, you're going to bomb.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's scary.
And you're like, oh, what did I do? Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the upbringing. You grew up in New York.
Yeah, born and raised.
Okay, where at in New York? In the city, Long Island?
Yes, in the city.
Okay.
I grew up on the east side, and then my nana was in Queens growing up, so I'd go to Queens a lot. And then now my family lives in Long Island. Okay. So and then also like my nana moved from Queens to Long Island. So Manhattan, Queens, Long Island, all that.
So you know the area.
Yeah.
Because when we were texting, I was like, okay, you're going to take this train to this time.
Yeah, you were very thoughtful.
Yeah, but
of that.
That's just because I was like, oh, you're coming from out of town.
Yeah, of course.
And then now that we're talking about it, I'm like, oh, I could have been like, yeah, I live in Astoria. And you've been like, all right, cool. I know how to get there.
Yeah, I'll find it.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. So high school. This is where I always start with a lot of my guests.
Sure.
Popular?
No.
Okay,
No.
let's talk about it. Because I also was not popular.
Yeah, let's get into it. First of all, if there's any comedian that I meet that was popular in high school, I want to kick them out of comedy. Okay, because I feel like this is the loser's art form. Okay, this is like. Your childhood was broken, like you have a hole in your soul and you weren't cool in high school. Okay. Yeah. Like that's our thing. That's our thing. So I grew up, it's wild. So I went to high school. My mom was a single parent. She worked very hard and she got my brother and I into a private school on financial aid.
Okay.
And so going to private school in New York City when you're not rich is like awful.
Oh, that's gotta be.
And I'm 33 now, and I would still say that like the people I went to high school with were like the worst people I'd ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Like just
very
like
Gossip Girl.
Yeah. Like Gossip Girl is such a stupid show. Oh my God. I have a story about that too, but no, they were definite. I don't even know how to classify Gossip Girl because that just like was not real. Like, anyways,
I can tell you it was a big hit in Florida. We're all watching it. Like these rich kids in New York are crazy.
The wealth of it, very accurate, but just like how they looked and they look like all. Now looking back, I'm like these people are
like they're 30.
Yeah, they look like they're 30 and they're playing teenagers and like I don't know, just like scenario things that happen. I was like,
The funniest thing to me is that they go to restaurants and bars and they're drinking at like 17, and I'm like, because I work at like a swanky steakhouse, so a lot of times, not a lot, but every once in a while, we'll get these rich kids that come in with their dad's credit card and think they're gonna play like Gossip Girl, and it's so funny because I'm like, no, they'll be like, can we get 3 vodka martinis? And I'm like, okay, can I see your IDs? And they'll pull out like one fake ID and try and pass it under the table, and I'm like, no. And they're like, do you know who my dad is? And I'm like, I don't care. No. So it's so funny because watching that show, it's just like people are like, you know who their parents are? They have so much money. And it's like, I work in that industry. I still like, no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
So it is very unbelievable from that aspect where it's like, unless you own the restaurant, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. In my high school, that was a real thing though. You could get really screwed over by someone's parents or something, but like,
oh really? So that is like a real, because I always thought that was just a line people threw out.
Your dynamic was different because you're in an establishment and like you said, like these kids' parents don't own the restaurant or bar. They would have to like be really close with someone that owned the bar and care that much to be like, get this guy fired, you know, but like no one's gonna go through all of that shit like because some kid was like pissed that you didn't give him a drink with a fake ID, you know. But in high school, Yeah, it was like you could definitely get screwed over with stuff. I mean, I guess the biggest thing for me was I got jumped like in my senior year of high school, like
What?
by a group of those kids. And my mom like took me to the cops and we filled out a police report. And then my mom took the police report and emailed it to all the parents, the dean of the school, the principal, like everyone.
Yeah.
And no one replied.
It just disappeared.
It just disappeared.
Wow.
And so I firsthand like have experienced.
So you've lived that. You've been
yeah.
through that. Like it just nobody. You feel like you're taking. I reference this all the time in Zoolander, Will Ferrell's character, when he's like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because like everyone else around you is like, that never happened. And you're like, yes, it did.
Yeah. Yeah. Like serious gaslighting, like even like beyond gaslighting.
That's horrible.
Yeah. And I heard stories like not just me, but other people getting beaten up or whatever, like ending up in the hospital, whatever. And like nothing
And just no consequences.
happening. Yeah. Or just like almost everyone in my grade that got into an Ivy League school, like their parents had massive connections.
Wow.
And like they were stupid. Like they were just like they had tutors, they like cheated their SAT and ACT, and you know, like this one girl I was friends with, like her mom was like friends, like had she was on like a tennis club, and she had like 5 friends in the tennis club that were all like connected to Harvard or whatever, and yeah, that's how she got in. She was like so stupid.
Also surprises me too, because obviously in the South we don't like, there are some rich kids, but not like the Northeast.
Yeah.
Like the
It's
connections.
a whole other level.
Yeah, the connections
Yeah.
and stuff people have up here is like our rich kids were like their dad owned like a Bass Pro Shop or something, and we're like, wow, like that.
But like
kid's
still wholesome, you know, like
but
there's a soul there.
No one's like, oh, I'm cheating
Yeah.
on stuff to get into Harvard. The worst thing that we would see is obviously it's a lot of athletes. So like coaches would fudge the numbers or go to a teacher and be like, hey, can you give them a C+ instead of a D+ so they can play?
Yeah.
That was like the worst of it. But up here, it's like people forging entire transcripts to get into schools.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
So you see all this from the outside because, again, like you said,
I was a kid that shouldn't have been there,
Yeah.
you know? So like I just saw a lot of stuff that like a kid like me should not know about, you know? It's like a very secret, exclusive world where all these things are going on. And what was I gonna say about that? Yeah. It's like it's crazy. I lost my train of thought.
No,
I
I'm sorry.
have ADHD.
For everybody
so-
listening, Tracy has come home. Hi, babe. Tracy, Kelly, Tracy.
Hi.
So let's talk about it. So in high school, like you said, fish out of water kind of a situation.
Oh, I was gonna say Nepo babies.
Yes.
Like I went to school. You know what? Do you know that term? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that term.
I am
has
also in
come
entertainment.
out. Yeah, like I'm so glad that term has come out, because like for years and years and years there was like no acknowledgement of that, you know. And I went to school with so many Nepo babies, and I think I definitely have such a chip on my shoulder because like I experienced firsthand, like I went to school with like, you know, celebrity kids, and you know, the child of this one, the child of that one, and like, you know,
I find it interesting because obviously podcasting has become such a big form of entertainment. It's kind of taken over where radio and talk shows and stuff used to be. I will say this, when Nepo babies are on like a podcast or something and they're talking about, like, they're self-aware. They're like, I understand what I've gotten shouldn't be mine.
PR. They have a PR team that helps
But there
them.
are you're 100% right, but there are ones that are like, my struggle. And that's when I'm like, fuck off, dude. Like, what are you talking about?
They're like, I worked hard. I auditioned. I worked for this. And it's like, yes, but you cut the line.
Yeah.
You so cut the line.
There are certain
Just
ones.
the fact that you got an audition
is
for a role like
the
that
proof. Yeah.
is like, do you know how many people like don't get that audit,
It's
like
nuts.
it's crazy.
And it is also interesting. This is something I talk about with people all the time is I played sports my entire life, like growing up, like through like into college. And I always find it fascinating because my problem now that I'm having is I equate too often comedy or entertainment with sports, where it's like, if you're good, they'll just find you. You know what I mean? Like if you're good, people will be like, oh, that person's good. Let's get them on the show, which is not how entertainment works at all.
Yeah.
It's quite the opposite. As we talked about, you see dumb people getting into Harvard, and we also see people where we're like, I would crush them. Like I would destroy them, but they're getting spots everywhere.
Yeah.
Because it's more about who you know and not how good you are and stuff like that.
Networking.
Yes. Networking is a big thing.
Yeah.
And that's always been my problem is I'm always very much like, this is something I talk about with other comedians in New York all the time because I don't reach out to clubs. Like that's my biggest problem is I won't reach out to bookers. I won't reach out to clubs. And they're always like, that's the whole job.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, no, I'm like, good. People will find me. And they're like, there's 10,000 comedians here. Probably 7,000 of them are good. Like no one's going to find you. So that's always been my problem is the opposite of like the Nepo baby situation where they get to like skip the line. I'm like, I keep walking to the back of it. Like, no, I'll be all right. I'm going to just be back here, you guys.
I understand that. I think a lot of comedians, like including myself, deal with that because it's like I think that's just another level of like putting yourself out there, like I think that first level of just getting yourself up to go do the thing and work on the thing like is already hard in and of itself. So like that next level of being like, I believe in myself enough to,
no way.
Reach out to this person and, ask for this opportunity or do this and that. And like that, I just feel like that's where it's hard for a lot of people like to like face that because you really have to confront like I'll just speak for myself, but like the shame and the anxiety and like, all that shit, when I was little and getting yelled at for singing and all
people
that,
telling me I'm never going to be good enough.
Yeah, all that stuff just implodes because it's like, that's really the moment where you're like, okay, this is something that could like do something.
Yeah.
This is like where I guess like the art meets the opportunity kind of thing.
And my big thing too is the imposter syndrome. Because I can be on stage getting laughs and I'm like, they don't mean it. They're faking it. Like in my head, I'm thinking that and I'm like, but you're doing really well. But I'm like, still, that's
crazy.
They're fucking with me. They're laughing out of sarcasm, not because but that's just how bad it is in my head where I'm just like, you're a fraud. This whole thing's a fraud. You're a farce. Like they don't really think you're funny. And then I'll go back and watch the tape and be like, oh, I did really well. And it's like, they didn't mean it. Which is an insane thing to think.
That's so insane. Yeah.
So let's talk about it. In high school, did you drink in high school?
Yes.
Okay.
I did drugs too.
You did drugs too? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So
I'm hoping I won't get fired for this.
Well, okay. So let's disclaimer out there. I know we talked about it a little bit.
High school was long ago enough.
Yes.
I feel okay.
And if there's anything you're hesitant on talking about, just don't talk about it.
Okay.
Because I would rather that than you text me in 3 hours and be like, hey, can you go back through and listen to the whole episode and take this, and this out?
Yeah,
so just keep that in mind.
Totally.
So I'm going to ask a couple of questions because this is always fascinates me because I didn't drink until late in my senior year. I was like 17, about to turn 18 when I had my first, like whenever I first got drunk. So for you, being in this environment at a high school where you're essentially an outcast, what happens? Are you with friends? Do you have like a group, like a band of merry men, like Robin Hood, where you guys are all just hanging out together? Like you against the rest of the Nepo babies?
This is so interesting. So I was definitely like a loser for a while. And then I managed to get in on the fringe.
Okay.
With like the cool group. Like they're not cool. But at the time I thought they were. And I was like on the edge of it. So like I was maybe like kind of good friends with like one or two girls in there where then it like kind of made the rest of the group tolerate me a little bit and I would be invited to things. But like,
how did you get in? Because I'm curious about little details. How did that happen?
This is crazy, but I got in this shtick that I couldn't get out of like acting stupid and making people laugh at me for
it's always,
it.
Yeah, the laughs. Yeah.
And no, but it was really bad
No.
because I got because it was
understand.
strictly about like being stupid
Yeah.
and making people, and I don't even know how I fell into it. I think it was just like out of anxiety, and like one day I said something kind of dumb and everyone laughed, but
Defense
then it
mechanism,
had the backlash of like, she's stupid, she's the R
So
word.
you get caught.
Like,
Yeah, you
she's-
get caught in this.
Yeah, so it was like this, and I couldn't get out of it. Like, it was like once I got my foot hooked into it, like I would just like say stupid things. Like I couldn't stop myself.
Oh, so you're saying you couldn't get, not because like they were like, hey, Kelly, say something dumb. It's because in your head you were like, oh, I'm trapped in this now.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. It was
so
like,
this was a you thing.
it was like, I'm trapped in this. I can't get out of it. Like I remember one thing I got, a lot of shit for was we were in health class, and this was 9th grade, and we were talking about STDs.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher was talking about STDs, and we were leaving the class, and in the class they were talking about how, like, for girls it's really important to not sit on public toilet seats because you can, contract like STDs, herpes, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which I already was not doing, but I like I squat like a lot of girls,
Yeah.
like in the air. And so I had a genuine thought as we're leaving class. And I said to a girl, like a classmate, I said, which I should have just asked the teacher, but I said to her, I was like, do you think, like, even if I'm squatting, that there's a way that the herpes can like jump off of the toilet? Can jump off of
and
the
Kelly
toilet
was
seat.
reborn.
Yeah, and like jump on your ass and your thighs, and then you have herpes. And she just erupted.
Yeah.
Like, told the whole high school. It was like,
I'm laughing
yeah.
only because it's a trauma response, because I've also been in these situations where I say something genuinely and everyone's like, you fucking idiot. And they all laugh
that's
at me.
exactly. It was like the flying herpes. Like it was. It was
That
like,
might be the title of this episode.
Yeah. You should. But like
Flying herpes.
Kelly believes in flying herpes. Like Kelly,
Oh, that's fucking terrible.
Like when it went wildfire through the whole
And this
school.
is freshman year.
Yeah,
and
freshman
this is
year.
gonna stick.
Yeah. And then there was another time, like in gym class, we went to Central Park, and they, had us walk around that, what's that patch of grass by the castle that I don't know.
The grass or the reservoir?
It's
There's
like
the Great Lawn.
that lawn, that big lawn, like
Yeah.
by the castle.
Yeah.
So I misinterpreted, and I was like, oh, like you could run a mile in 4 minutes. I don't know. And then the wrong guy heard that. He was like, you are stupid. Like he just went in on me. And that guy bullied me like for 4 years straight. And then we like hooked up in my senior year of high school. I'm like, I hate myself. Oh my God. But he was popular. And
So that kind of was your introduction into the
yeah.
fringes, was just saying these things.
We
and
didn't
people...
have sex. We kissed. We
Okay.
made out. I had to clarify that because, like, as an adult, I still say hooking up, or people say hooking up. I'm like, oh, they made out. They felt, but people mean sex. But
that's what we mean.
we made out, and I wanted his validation.
Yeah, of course. So you get in on the fringes by saying these things and making people laugh.
Yeah, so
and
making
again, it's
people
not on
laugh.
your own accord, because we all have bits like that where it's like a bit you might not be super proud of, but it always gets a laugh. And I know in my situation, every time I do it, I feel like a piece of shit. Like I feel dirty for doing it.
Oh, you mean like those jokes that you've figured out that always work,
Yeah.
or almost always work, but you're like, this is not authentic to
Yeah.
me, and this
Well,
is
and
so
like-
cringe.
Yeah, like for me,
I have those jokes too.
I'm good
Yeah.
with voices. So for me, a lot of times, especially depending on the place I'm in, I'll be like, listen here, you guys. And everyone's like, ah. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I hate, or I have a bit where I talk about meeting Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I do the and people love it because people love impressions. But while I'm doing it, I'm just like,
You're like, I hate myself.
and I'll even tell the audience sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll be like, I hate the fact that you guys find so much joy in this. So understandably,
Mine was really bad though. Like, I mean, I think thinking people believing that you're stupid, like
that's even worse.
chunk of people, like, I would take being corny any day, or not saying you're corny. I'm just saying,
doing the thing that is perceived as hacky or corny.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I would take that
like
100 out of 100.
And it never
versus...
left me. It never left me the whole time in high school.
So when was the first time you got together with the popular kids and like went to a party?
I like started to get in with one girl like midway through 10th grade.
Okay.
And then like went to one or two things like in the summer of 10th grade. And then in 11th grade, I was like a little bit more in with people. I started going to stuff more. And, it was a fast high school. Like people were doing drugs, like, pills, like all that kind of stuff. So I did a little bit of that. And
so that was junior year?
Yeah, junior, senior.
And I'm assuming these are just rich kids pulling stuff out of their mom's medicine cabinet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume.
Yeah. Because their moms, the moms and the dads,
pulled out to
just like, fucked up, like on all the drugs, all the prescription.
And to the point you made earlier, they have doctors where they're just like, my back hurts, I want this. And they're like, well, let's do some tests. And they go, no, my back hurts, give it to me. And they're like, okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like these psychiatrists that like are paid $600 an hour that are just like...
more Xanax? Yeah, absolutely. More Xanax.
That are just like, they say the most destructive things to you and like you just ruin people.
So from there, you end up going to college.
Yeah, I'm a college dropout, actually.
Okay, where'd you go?
Yeah, I went to Franklin Marshall. I almost forgot the name of it. Franklin and Marshall College in Lancaster. I'm like a 2-time college dropout, and I am back in college now. I'm taking it very, very slow because, I have a full-time job now, and then like comedy is my priority in my free time. But yeah, I actually, ironically, like I do have like a college, like fucked up story. Like even though I dropped out.
Yeah,
like,
but I mean, the experiences still happen.
Yeah, yeah.
So take us through it. What happened?
So it was at NYU. It was an NYU party, and
not even the school you were going to.
Yeah, no. It was like
It still fits. This show's about crazy stories, not accurate or concurrent timelines.
Yeah. No, so basically I went on a Tinder date. It was a first Tinder date. Okay. And the guy went to NYU, so he took me to an NYU party. Okay. And it was like at this like rich guy, like, so first of all, I didn't know that there was like a United Nations like apartment building complex. Did you know that?
Yeah. Well, it's only because when I first moved to New York, I lived across like 2 blocks away from the UN. So I knew a lot more than I needed to know about the UN.
Yeah. So there's like a whole, and this guy's apartment, it was like 2 floors, like wide marble stair, like crazy.
You'd be shocked what taxes go to from our country and from all other countries. Yeah. I remember because there's a lot of consulates near the UN. And I'd walk out of my apartment and I'd look at this brownstone and it would have a flag flying. And I'm like, that's a $7 million brownstone. And that flag's from a country that doesn't have a great GDP. It's like, okay, I see where all the money went.
Wow.
Like just buying these buildings.
Wow. That is wild.
Yeah, it's crazy where
I also
the
dated
money
a
goes.
guy that, lived in the Republican clubhouse.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm liberal, but but yeah, you're making me think of that. I don't really understand what that was, but it was like a big building on Lexington Avenue. And there were only a couple apartments in there. And I guess it was like for Republican. I don't know. Like we need a little clubhouse for the Republicans.
We need a place to hang out.
Yeah.
No girls allowed.
Yeah.
So what happened with the NYU date?
So he brings me to this party and I'm really anxious because I don't know anyone. Mm-hmm. And he kind of was a dick and ditched me a little bit.
Okay.
So I started drinking a lot to feel more comfortable.
100%. Totally get that.
And so I ended up passing out in someone's room, multiple rooms, and I like somehow rolled under a bed. And I woke up to a couple having sex on top of the bed. And I was so disoriented. I was like,
That's got to
whoa.
be terrifying.
Yeah, because I'm like claustrophobic,
Yeah.
you know, like I didn't even know that I was under a bed. Like I don't know how. I don't know.
You pass out on the
how
floor, you roll under the
rolled
bed.
yeah, I don't remember any of that. And so, and I just like, and I knew they were a couple because the guy was so weird. He was like very kinky, and he was like, you know, talk to me like Buzz Lightyear. Like
What?
Yeah.
What?
He was like to infinity and beyond, like trying
Yeah.
to get his girlfriend and be like to infinity, ride me home, like. And I was like, oh my god, this
Buzz Lightyear
is
to Star
crazy.
Command. Come in, Star Command.
Yeah, it was really like, and you know, if they were strangers, wouldn't be doing that. So,
No.
yeah. So I was like, okay, these people are a couple, and so I just was freaking out, and also I was stuck under the bed. Like I couldn't get out because I was trying to move, and I was like wedged in. Like I was like,
That's going to be terrifying.
yeah, I was like a raccoon, like shoved into like a tunnel thing under the ground. I don't know. Like I just could not
Trapped.
get out. So, because I had a thought, like I will just slowly, because it was dark, I could just slowly crawl out and
Yeah.
then leave. They will never know. But I was forced to say something because I couldn't get out. So I was just like, hey.
So you were trying to play it cool, though. You weren't like,
Yes.
oh my God, I'm trapped under here.
I was trying to be like quiet, you know, like,
Excuse me, guys.
yeah, I was like, hey. And the guy was like, yo, what the fuck? You know, and like jumped out of the bed. And they were like, oh my God, someone's out there. And he ended up pulling me out from under the bed. Like I could not, it was like a king size bed.
Yeah.
Wide. And I was like all the way
Against the
in
wall
the
on
middle.
the. Oh, okay.
Under the bed, like lodged in, like could not get myself out. And so he legit had to like reach under, grab me by the wrist, and like
Oh my
pull
God.
me out. And yeah, they helped me find my shoe, and then I left.
Okay, so did you leave the
I
whole
didn't
party?
say bye to the guy either. Yeah, I left the whole party. That was like awful. I mean, now it's funny, but at the time it was like horrifying.
No,
Yeah.
I've talked about it before on the show, but I've been in situations where I've waken up out of a blackout and been nowhere near as traumatizing as being trapped under a bed. But like I've
Yeah.
woken up in places where I didn't know where I was.
Yeah.
And that is terrifying. I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine waking up in a dark space with people above you.
And like your head is just right there.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Yeah.
That's so.
Yeah.
I would have left too. I'm like, all right, bye guys.
Yeah.
So when you leave something like that, do you just immediately like just get on the subway and go home?
Oh no, I took a cab.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're like, I'm
no,
not.
No,
I'm not risking being around anybody.
No. I like had also done a little weed, so I was like paranoid. It was bad. And then that guy like was texting me a bunch the next day. Like, but he wasn't texting me the night of like, hey, where are you? Where'd
Yeah.
you go? But the next day, and I just like ghosted him. I was
just-
like, that warrants ghosting.
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
That kind of experience.
I blocked him actually.
Well, now you know. If you're listening,
His name
now you
was
know.
Julian.
Julian.
All the Julians
If you're
out there.
Let's talk about London.
Yeah. So
When was this?
this was a few years ago.
Okay.
When I dropped out of, well, I was like in between dropping out. I've dropped out a few times. So I dropped out of Franklin and Marshall, and then I applied to transfer to University of Illinois. I got in. So I was trying to get some credits.
Yeah.
And so I went to London, and I was like taking a couple like abroad
There you go, yeah.
classes there. And so with some of the kids there, we went to like a rave, like a forest rave, legit like a forest rave, like where the trees have faces and the DJs are dressed like wizards and shit, like very trippy, you know? And it's like, you know, muggy.
This is such a London thing, by the way.
Yeah, it's
This
like,
doesn't happen in South Florida.
yeah. Do you know the festival Tomorrowland?
No.
Have you heard? So it was kind of like that, like where these big installations and like fairy like things and Lord of the Rings sort of vibe. Like, and it was like rainy too, and like it was very much like Narnia on ketamine vibes, you know, like just like that, you know.
Never mind, that's the name of the episode.
Yeah, Narnia on ketamine. And so I go, and this was my first rave ever. And I go with like these group of kids in my class I don't really know that well. And like this stranger that I guess jumped in our crowd, he was like, he gave us a joint. We're all smoking a joint, and I smoked it. And all of a sudden, like, I just felt like I shrank down to like the size of a Polly Pocket, like literally like the doll, the Polly Pocket doll. And I know,
I remember it well. My sisters loved those.
yeah, I literally felt like I was down here. And I was like, oh my God, you know, and I was just freaking out. And I was like, I need to get home. And I was like so scared. You know, I'm in another country.
Are you there with classmates, friends? Who are you there with?
The classmates, but like I was literally the first day of us,
so
or
you don't
the
know
second
anybody.
day.
Yeah.
So they were like, okay, you know, I didn't really know them well. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't care about me, you know. And so I'm just scrambling. I'm running around, and you know, all the cops out there, they're dressed like very proper. You know, they have that metal hat and thing on the chin and whatever. And
hello.
They're just like very proper. And so I'm like running up to all of them, and like I just like in my state of mind, I was just like scared I was gonna get kidnapped or raped. So I'm like running up to every cop I saw, like, get me home, my dad's a lawyer, get me home, my dad's a lawyer. You know, like trying to intimidate them, like ask for help and intimidate, like, if you try anything, my dad's a lawyer, he's a big lawyer. And then I was trying to WhatsApp my mom too. Thank God she didn't answer, because she would have had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like, she's in New York. That didn't work. But eventually I got in one of those black cabs. They have those black cabs out there, and I got home, and then my legs were covered in mud and leaves, like up to my thigh. And I literally was like laying in my bed with my legs out, and just like eating tiny apples and peanut butter, and like just, I was so relieved.
How long did it take you to recover from that? Like a day or two?
I eventually fell asleep and woke up and it was gone, but that was like such a horrible experience.
What happens with the classmates the next time you see them?
They didn't even notice.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't even.
Because that is.
They were okay.
That is one of the things though that I'm always like, because I've been sober now, I have 7 years next week, but it is one of those things whenever I would drink, I would always think about was like, oh my gosh, I made a fool out of myself in front of all these people. But every time I'd show up back at work the next day and they'd be like, haha, you're crazy. And that would be the end of it.
Yeah.
And I was always like, oh yeah, other people aren't thinking about me nearly as much as I'm thinking about me.
There was so much going on, and like
Yeah,
I
you're in
kind of
Narnia.
separated myself from the group really quickly when that happened, because my mind was immediately like,
get home.
I need to get home. I need to get out of here. Like, I've had some really bad trips on weed. Like, just like
we're going to talk about another one.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
So this one was more recently, the edibles one.
Yeah. I did some tinctures or whatever. I'm going to like skew some of the details because I don't want the producers to know that I'm talking about their show. But yeah, so basically I was just with some friends like at a picnic, and I'd never done tinctures before. And it was like 1,000 milligrams.
Yeah.
And I took like
So those are just for me and for everyone listening, those are like the drops.
Yes, the drops.
Because that is, I know what a tincture is, but I'd never heard it used in this context.
Yeah. The dropper. And I had taken I took like this much, like, so the full.
Okay. For everyone listening, it's about the entire length of a G2 pen's cover.
Yeah. So I took
Grip,
that and a half. Yeah,
okay.
I took that.
So you basically took a pen's worth tincture.
Yeah. I took this whole amount of a tincture of weed. And so I just like laid out in the grass, and I'm looking at the clouds, and I'm like laid out. I'm like, I'm so laid out. This is great. And then it like hit me a couple hours later where I just all of a sudden I couldn't talk. Like every time I tried to talk, it just felt like I was buffering, like brrr, like giggling.
So it's starting to hit you.
Yeah, and I'm just like getting paranoid and I'm laughing. But it's like every time I've been high on weed and like laughing, it's never like feeling good laughing. Yeah. It's like
I'm actually the same. That's why I even in my worst addiction days, people would be like, "You want to smoke weed?" And I'm like, "Fuck no," because it always makes me paranoid. And they're like, "Oh, it's now." There's more science behind it. And people are like, oh, well, it's this strain and that strain. But when I was in college, when I first tried weed, all the way up until I got sober at 30, every time I'd be paranoid and I would, be laughing, but it was out of like fear and being scared and being anxious. It wasn't like, oh, I'm having a great time. It's like, I'm so scared right now.
Yes. That's exactly it. Where it's just like, I'm terrified. And I had a show. I had 2 shows that same night and I'm getting worse and worse. And I was like, I'm not going to back out of these shows. Like, I'm super professional. I never like to back out of shows, if it's in my control.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm just going to Uber to the show. I'm going to talk to my Nana on the phone on the way there. And I'm going to get a pizza there. Hopefully that'll absorb some of the stuff. I'm going to do this show. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And so I Uber there. I talked to my Nana the whole time. I made sure she didn't. I just realized my mom might be watching. This is fun. It's fine. These
are past experiences.
Yeah.
They happen. You're a grown up.
Yeah. So I was talking to her and trying to make her not know that I was high, which I got away with it. And then I get there and I am just like even worse. Like I can't even talk. Like my vision is spinning. I'm like, what is happening? Like this is crazy. Like I can't do a show but I'm just like, I'm still going to do it.
You're here.
Stay there.
Now you're like,
I'm going to do it. But like, I know what's going on. In my head. Like I cannot, so I get on stage and I literally feel like a 5-year-old girl, like a 5-year-old little girl. Like I'm just like,
hey guys,
in my dress, everyone's just staring at me. And I didn't even get the mic out of the stand. Like I was just like, hi, like literally like that. And then I just ended up like hiding behind a curtain for like.
Are you getting laughs?
Like they like giggle, like uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like at first they thought maybe it was a character or something.
You're doing a bit. Yeah.
But then I just like went behind the curtain and that's when they got me off stage.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah. They were like, "Oh, she's gonna be behind the curtain the whole time."
She's not. She's not doing a bit.
Yeah,
I think she's not doing a bit, you guys.
Yeah. So they like lit me and they had me I think I was up there for like 3 minutes or something. But at least I saved face. They got
100%.
me an Uber. They got me in an Uber, and I'd never done anything like that before. So I still have a good relationship. With everybody. And I was honest. I was like, this is what happened. Blah,
and that's
blah,
the
blah,
thing. Yeah.
know?
If you tell people like, hey, I was like hanging out at a thing, we were doing some stuff, I didn't realize it was going to react that way. Like that's on me. My bad. 99% of the time, especially because producers and comics, we're all the same kind of person. They're like, yeah, totally get it. Don't even worry about it. Because my problem was I used to get hammered. Like I could only get on stage hammered. So when I got sober, I had to relearn how to do stand-up because I'd only ever done it drunk. But
was that out of the nerves?
Yeah, well, and so this is when, so I stopped playing college football. I dive headfirst into like drinking and partying because I was doing it before. But now that I'm not playing college football, I can just do it all the time. And then I was like, well, let me try stand-up. But I was so scared to get on stage that I would just get hammered and then get on stage. And then it became a thing where I bring it up because like in your situation, it was like a one-off, like, hey, this is what happened. But for me, it became like every time I was on stage, they were like, God damn it, Brennan. Like he's fucked up again. And I'd run the light and I would just do like an Arnold impression for like 7 minutes at like a 5-minute thing. And so it became, comics can be very forgiving and producers can be very forgiving. But when it becomes your thing, that's when people are like, no, Like, we're not putting you on shows anymore because you're going to show up hammered and act like a dickhead. So for you, especially because, you take it seriously, like, I'm sure they love you out there. So they were just like, all right, we get it. You were hiding behind a curtain. It's cool. We lit you. We're fine.
I'm sure they think it's funny now, but I mean, it is fun. Like if it wasn't me and I saw someone doing that, I would think it was so funny.
Oh yeah. Well, and especially too,
like who does that?
The crazy thing is about the whole situation is, as comedians, we understand this, but it's like 3 minutes for the audience listening is a long time.
It's a really long time. Even 30 seconds.
So
is like a long
that's where
time.
I was going. After the first 30 seconds for them to be like, no. I think she's doing something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to be in the back of the room and be like, she's got it. I think she's trying something out here.
Yeah.
And then like another 30 seconds, another minute. And they're like, let's see where this goes. It's
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? Lighter. For it to take 3 minutes for someone to be like, oh, yeah, she's off the rail. We lost her. Put the light up.
Yeah.
So everything's good now, though?
Yes.
Everyone's cool?
Yes. That was
Beautiful.
a while ago.
Everything is
My
all
mom
good.
sees.
This was fun.
Yes.
Thank you so
it
much for
was.
coming on.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me. I was just like some random girl that reached out to you.
Yeah,
so
it happens a lot. And that's the thing is, my whole thing is, and people listening to this might get upset, but my whole thing is I will go if someone especially reaches out on Instagram, because there's like friends of friends, like you mentioned Sarah. We love Sarah. So I will always go in and see like the mutual followers that we have and stuff. And then I'll watch clips because my whole the bar is,
of course,
as long as I think the person is funny, I'm like, yeah, come on. Like, let's do it. So this was a blast.
Thank you.
Have a great time in New York. Of course. Plug everything one more time. Social media, all the stuff.
Yes. You can follow me on Kelly Kaufman _ for Instagram and TikTok. And then I need to look it up, Prune Yard Cinemas it's just a movie theater comedy show, which is so cool. It's on June 7th on Saturday at 7 p.m.
Beautiful.
In the Bay Area. I'll be back in the Bay then.
The Bay. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening at Brennan T. Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. Get your tickets to the Bro Jason Tour by the time you're hearing this. Got shows coming up in Dallas and Denver in September. So get your tickets. We'll be at the Comedy Lounge, and we'll talk to y'all next week.